How are you doing? You have your coffee? All good? I must say that if you wake up at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning to come to listen to some bald guy about drive, so probably you need to be on stage, not me, to talk about that. But with that, let's maybe think together about drive, right? What's actually drive GAIT engineers? So to explain why maybe I should be on stage, not you, right? I want to a little bit tell you my story, how I was interested into this topic and eventually how I get to know something about it. So first, I get my psychology degree back then in 2007, right? And my master topic was influence the type of leadership on the group productivity. So basically, I was really interested during this time already on motivation, right? And how your bosses or your teammates can influence the motivation. Not get too deep into the topic in 2 words. If you are working in highly intellectual environment, the more hard the work is, the more exploratory it is, the more liberal type of leadership is suiting better, the more safe environment, I would say, and more exploration you need to do. So we will talk a little bit about that later, but you definitely don't need a dictatorship if you want to build really something new. As probably all of us, somewhere in that time I started to work and I was fascinated about computers and IT starting from high school. So basically it's IT support work that I started, but somewhere in 2012 I understood that probably I want to learn the programming. I started learning myself, but also I figured out that it would probably be a quite challenge to do it myself. So at the time on the platform WAWTech, I made a posting. So guys, maybe let's come together and try to learn something. And I asked about other developers' opinions and friends, and this will be my failure coming, because on the first meeting there was only 2 of us. So basically I come up and other girls that was interested. But second one, it was already 6 people, and then more and more, and it become, with the help of community, quite a thing, I would say. So I think the first year we get together 30 people, we find the mentors, we even find the program. So we built the course in a year about, it was that time Ruby and Ruby on Rails, because it was the thing. So we made the 4th course. After that, the things just keep rolling. So we probably did about 12 courses altogether, different languages, JavaScript, Ruby on Rails, C#, backend. We did commit to open source to Node.js. We translate Node.js document into Ukrainian, and so it was keep going and going. We even had our small conference in Ukraine. But the question is that all that environment let me experiment with the things when money is not involved, right? So all was free and volunteer organization, and it was quite interesting, I would say. And approximately 2014, maybe a bit later, I was keep working in IT at the same time, and I switched to management, where I kept experimenting, I would say, and now get to director of engineering. So as we have a motto in Catalans, knowledge must be shared. So let's keep thinking together about the drive, right? The thing that I want to maybe get back a little bit with you is to talk about the brain, because when we all try to build something, right, we first get back to basics. So you probably all heard about this, but maybe I will get some interesting idea back to you. So in really simple terms, right, we have a couple of structures that we're deeply interested in when we talk about motivation, drive, and in general, right, about the brain. So prefrontal context, where all our deep thinking and logical part is built. But actually in psychology, we have also a nickname for that part. It's the brake. Why the brake? But because all of your emotions that go in, all your fears, things, and so forth, the only thing that can stop them, this analytical part, it's actually the brake. But you also all have experienced that when you haven't slept really good this couple of days, or then the brakes stop working, that you can become moody quite quickly, become aggressive. So it's important part for us to discuss everything and the drive including. Then amygdala, small jelly bean part of our brains is actually our panic button. So it starts fight or flight mode. Basically, whenever the amygdala is working, you either want to escape the situation or you became protective, aggressive, and so forth. The hypothalamus in just our storage, not so much interesting right now. So when we talk about drive, we definitely need to talk about dopamine system, right? Our reward circuit. Why? People sometimes mistaken and think about dopamine that is like some pleasure kind of element or something, but actually it's not that. It's the reward and the chemicals that get into our brain when we anticipate the finishing of some difficult task. So when we even not finishing, but we are going through and we see that we are progressing a lot. Why it's important for like the next part of it? Because Hungarian American psychologist with quite a difficult surname, I hope I will pronounce it right, Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, he figured out the flow state. And what this actually is when the challenge for us is good enough to compare with the task that we are doing, and we will get so concentrated that basically we forgot about everything else and we can concentrate on a task for, I would say, it an hour. Our right sweet spot between challenge, skills, passions, and actually even I talked with guys yesterday about that, and I figured out there is a book from this guy, it's called The Flow. So if you're interested in the topic, read through. But the main thing is what's interesting also, what's on the down level happening, that you get the right level of chemicals. I would say the cocktail of dopamine, norepinephrine, everything, so that you are basically, your brain, you can imagine, is get drugged. So, and so to getting in the states, you don't follow the time, and even I talked with guys yesterday and said, okay, when I read this book, I really understand what's happening when I'm programming or when I'm doing some interesting stuff. So from that, we need to go to the second important part, neuroplasticity. When we were in universities, it's like quite often in the books, or our professor compared it to our brain to computer. But I think nowadays it's much better to compare it to LLM. So like IA. Why? Because the brain, our brain actually have this ability to rewire itself. So the more you learn on specific topics, the more you're interested and push yourself in some of the area, the better is synapse connection in that area. The better you become at this, the more creative you become at this. And actually it becomes easier for you and more enjoyable. So what this means, neuroplasticity, is that we can retrain ourselves, so we can retrain our brain. Definitely, most of you with the programming heard about, had this feeling, right? The more you write in Python, the better you, or more creative you are, the better you are. Quickly about intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. So basically all that passion, drive, what we are doing, not for money, right? That motivate us. All the other things that recognition that we need to be in the societies, we need to follow the deadline, be a good parent, and all of that is external motivations that also influence the drive and how we're working with that. Then here I would want to ask you a little bit, cognitivist biases, huge table. We will definitely not discuss even a small part of this. How many of you heard about cognitivist biases? Can you raise a hand, please? And Can you keep your hand if you know what's your cognitive biases that you are mostly following, or is it disturbing you at work, or no? Okay, let's just quickly talk about a couple of them. I actually prepared to the presentation like one of them called IKEA effect. So if you're getting the furniture from IKEA and you assemble it yourself, you value it much more than if you bought something already made. So we interested in confirmation biases. The thing is, for example, if you think about it, oh, okay, I'm not a creative person, you will find so many evidence of that. So basically, this bias is influencing you. Whatever you think about yourself or about the object, you will find things like evidence for that. Status quo bias is interesting, really interesting for us because basically when you I even forgot about it. Sorry. Let's skip the next one. And cognitive divergent thinking. Important one because one of them is analytical problem solving. Once again, our prefrontal context. The second one's creating new connections. So whenever you want to think about something creatively, build something new, and so forth, divergent one. We actually want to talk about two of this in terms of talking for the next slide, for a little bit with ADHD. Because, for example, with people that have this condition, they have much more divergent thinking dominating. And it also quite a lot influence on their motivation, because people with this condition is usually solely motivated based on their passions, and kind of dopamine regulation is not so working at their brain as a regular people. So they need to think about motivating themselves differently, in different way, and find the way to motivate through emotions. And it's actually interesting because why I want to touch base this topic, because the drive is for everybody, everyone is different. So, but you probably heard about these great guys that are actually amazing programmers, but even with the conditions. So the Primogen, for example, if you heard about this YouTuber, or DHH that builds the Rails, he never accepted, or announced that he is, but I ready to bet the flag that he is. So that means that whatever type of a brain or even condition you have, you can build the systems that actually drive you. Moreover, the people with ADHD usually get into the focus mode can be much more concentrated than the regular brain. So it's kind of interesting in this term. Also, I want to talk to you this unexplainable numbers, right? 850, 15. So when we tried to build a couple of our last courses, it definitely was that at the beginning for the course, there was applying about 1,000 people, 1,200 people, 800 people. And we had to, we give them the program on GitHub, that basically 2 months program, self-studying, to get through this crowd, so really motivated people. From this motivated people, we tried to get about 50 to the interview that was interested in the course itself. And it got back to, at the end of the course, we had probably about 10 or 15 that actually finished it after 6 months of their courses. And that's the first time it was interesting to experiment and see who went through, but it also, like the first time we said, we probably failed here, and we probably failed a couple of more times before, but then we understand when we checked with the regular courses that was even paid and so forth, we figure out that no, actually paid courses have even lower I would say effect, even lower number. Or if everyone finished the course, the bar of the technical skills that they learned was quite smaller. So that's bring us to the next topic. So that failure. So actually, failure have so much influence on the drive and how we think about it. Here, Winston helped us a little bit shows that success is going from failure to failure. Having the safe space to failure, or having having the place when you can fail but still learn from this failure is very important. Why it feels so painful to fail? Because once again, amygdala, what is do when there is a chance that you fail? I don't know, speaking at a conference, right? Maybe preparing your slide, or like doing something big that's anticipated. So you see the negative parts much more higher, and you need to line up the positive parts for yourself or bring it up together. Why? Because historically we built to run with our peers, we would like be with our tribe and survive, right? And our brain was concentrated on failure more, but because it's a chance that you will die. So basically, if you fail within your tribe, they will leave you, and it's survival instinct to not get close to the failure. But in the modern world, it's actually not working so well. So there's famous. Quite famous Harvard Business School professor Amy Edmondson that had basically her PhD and that study of her life about psychological safety. You definitely need to think about it if you start managing people, but even if you think about yourself in your drive, you need to learn how to fail smart. You need to anticipate failure more and learn based on it, because otherwise our kind of instincts and our emotional level will push us out of it, and you will not grow, you will not get into this drive state so easily. So she has a huge concept about failing effectively, especially if you're building something new, if you have higher standards, if you're working towards creating something that definitely you will fail quite often because you are doing something that never was done before, right? So it requires from your failure. And the second part, if you heard in your companies, right? There is no time for failure. We need to do everything right, amazingly from the first thing. It's actually the opposite of creating the safe culture, and it can bring just that failure as hide it, and that your team is not so creative. So because even if you take Edison, right? 1,000 experiments, I just didn't fail 1,000 times. I just find 1,000 times that it's not working, right? So to sum up, all that was I talking about, what's the idea, what's behind the drive, what you need to build so you drive yourself through the career effectively. You need to create your individual manual. I would say nobody will create it for you. How you handle your emotion, how you trick and play with your brain so that you are create your unique and I would say great way to get the drive, get it more than anyone else. And what we actually see through, and I saw through all of that experiments, that with the codons or within the work, the guys that actually quite effective and mostly enjoying the work, they figure out how to build that manual for themselves. And I think that's probably the only way. Unfortunately, we not born with it and so forth. So you're building the systems that motivates and drive you. So there's many suggestions what you can do to build it. Some of them is like environmental design. So you basically have your working desk and you maybe resting place, then rhythms, so you alternating deep work and rest, so that even if you are in a flow, sometimes Pomodoro technique not just for you to get into the flow, get working, sometimes it's for you to remind you to get rest, because you have not so much of motivation and productive time. You need to think about it a little bit in advance. Reflecting loop, so review your progress, reinforce of that you are seeing actually in some points that you are making the progress, and checklists, actually effective techniques, many more that you can do to motivate yourself to keep the drive flowing and so forth. One of the technique or tweaks that I will share with you, also conversation with your future self, really helping when you trying to get rid of procrastination and figure out, okay, how I can do the task push myself to do the task. You are talking kind of future self that your future you will be really grateful if you prepare in advance, if you go through the slide, if you're doing all that, because, and it's actually positive kind of talking instead of maybe getting into the negative zone, or I will fail, I will do these things, and think about this as definitely as an instrument for you. If-then algorithm, actually cool that it's also retraining your brain, what's to anticipate, what's to expect, and it's great even habit builder, I will say, algorithm. When you know that you, okay, after the dinner, I go for a walk with my wife, for example, almost every day. What I know, what is anticipating this on my kind of body, and I get used to do so often that it's keep doing effectively and like self-perpetuate, and you see that it's self-building kind of and rewiring your brain also. And definitely feed your curiosity. You already doing that, right? We're already all here, but think about maybe participating in a meetup, talking on the next meetup. Even if you're not having any topic, if you think about something, just write down the topic, send it to maybe organizers, think about getting in, so forth. And even when you are sitting here, think about here that you're not just like outside of work or something, you actually retrain your brain. You're talking about the topics that interested you. Come up maybe to the dinner after party on that the guy is organizing here, because the most interesting talk are happening there. Believe me, it's quite interesting. And a little bit final things that I want to talk about, kind of be kind to yourself, please. Like, so much stress nowadays in all of the environment. Think about it, that it's like no extra pressure actually helping you. So maybe be a little bit kind, and don't forget that your brain uses emotional LLM is inside your body. So you need to care about your body. One of the tips, was a great tips that I can recommend is walking after the meal, so leveling down your sugar spikes, and definitely is helpful in terms of keeping you to the long run. As it's saying, right, we are in marathon, not in a sprint, so think about how you keep training your LLM, how you keep working on your emotions. If you think about cognitive biases, maybe stumble through them a little bit to know what's your ones. One of them can throw you that is quite good. It's like biases of knowledge. We quite often forget with so many knowledge, for example, about IT, software programming, and so forth, when you train somebody, how actually non-knowledgeable they can be, and that they just completely don't understand what you're talking about, what's all that universe is. So think about that. Then if you want to get in touch, please welcome. And probably the last one, thank you, and there will be no Q&A on this stage, so if you want to talk about any of this topic, I will be glad, because I can keep talking for them for hours. My wife can confirm that. So I will not do that. There is a Q&A kind of spot after this stage, so you're definitely very welcome to talk about the drive. So keep yourself motivated. You're already here. You're doing great. So talk with somebody. Also, anticipate the failure. If you will talk with some of your buddies to the left or the right, nothing bad will happen. You will not be thrown up after your tribe. Right? You can potentially get many good connections. You can meet new people, and you actually can get value after all of this. So think once again through all of this that I show slides that I show you. Be creative. Don't be afraid. You will not be thrown out of the tribe. Thank you very much. Thank you.